Hi, and welcome to my channel. This is Dr. Carmen McGuinness coming to you from Sorrento, Florida on a bright and beautiful spring morning. So on this channel we discuss relationships of all sorts, things that pertain to relationships, things that contribute to healthy relationships, including what I call the primary relationship, which is the relationship that we have with ourselves. So today we're going to talk about a tender subject, and that is infidelity, cheating, and whether or not the relationship can be rescued, can be healed after infidelity has occurred. No one expects it. We recall the day that we wed, that we made whatever vows we made, or in any kind of ceremony, or just made a commitment to one another, something that held us together. And we remember it as one of the most important times of our lives. And on that day, someone else making love with, being intimate with your partner, your beloved, is the last thing that you expected. But then it happens. And if you're viewing this, I'm assuming you either fear that it is happening, has happened, or that you know that it has happened. So perhaps your first question after infidelity is why? And now I'm speaking here to the person who was betrayed. Very often, this is what I hear in therapy. The question is why? Why did this happen? And because it's important to whether or not you decide to try to heal the relationship, I'll briefly address the possible whys before we move on to the actual topic of this segment, which is how you might try to do that, how you might try to actually heal the relationship. So if you feel triggered by the topic of why, if it's too soon, if you have just found out that something is going on, then you may want to fast forward for about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That's how long this portion will take. And then we'll get on to how to actually heal a relationship. So, starting now. Boredom was the reason given by 71% of unfaithful men. And this was a study that looked at men who cheated only, out of a sample of 100 subjects. Other studies that looked at men and women have indicated that emotional unavailability of the spouse of either sex is a common variable resulting in cheating. So to be clear about what this means, if you are emotionally unavailable, your partner may look elsewhere for emotional closeness. But the same is true if he or she is the one who is emotionally unavailable. He or she may feel the lack of something, but not really understand his or her part in it. So, and we'll talk a little bit about how therapy can help with that as we move into the next part of this presentation. So, difficulty enjoying sexual intimacy was a second variable of those betrayed among both sexes. The data show, and again, that goes both ways, whether it's the person who was betrayed who's having difficulty enjoying sex, or the person who cheats who's having difficulty enjoying sex. The data also show that couples who have fewer or less intense positive sexual interactions are at a higher risk of infidelity, as are those who report low sexual satisfaction. The quality of the interpersonal dynamic between the partners has also been cited in numerous relationship studies, not surprisingly. How often arguments occur, how much eye contact and touch occurs, and whether the partners confide in one another regarding their intrapersonal workings, how much of their interior world they share with their partner. And not surprisingly, when children are involved, relationships change. Yes, the odds that someone will cheat are higher when there are children in the relationship. In particular, if they are shared children that you both contributed, gave birth to. And much depends upon whether the couple has instrumental support, such as childcare, so that the love affair, such as dating and weekends away, can continue after children come along. Variables outside of the marriage include having friends who have cheated and discussed it with the unfaithful partner, frequent exposure to pornography. This is the death knell for marriages, really. The ease of access to willing alternative sexual partners also participates. If you have a lot of good-looking people around you, you're more likely to be attracted to one of them. And how much unsupervised time the unfaithful partner has. We think here of the traveling salesman who has multiple women in multiple towns. So psychological variables also participate in the question of whether your beloved will cheat. And not surprisingly, those who score high on scales of narcissism or sociopathy are much more likely to engage with multiple partners across the duration of a marriage or other partnership. So, all that said, we move on to how you might heal the relationship after one of you has been unfaithful. The very first and most important thing for the cheater to understand is that a very high level of forgiveness is required if the relationship is to re-stabilize. And I use the word cheater here because if that word offends you after you have been unfaithful, you're almost surely destined for failure. And I mean this with the utmost of sincerity and a desire that you rethink this. Not owning the word cheat or cheater will be the first blow to the potential restabilization of the relationship. The word isn't intended as a punisher, but merely as a label. And you're going to hear it a lot, whether I say it here or not. Many couples who find themselves in this situation do wish to remain in the relationship if they can find peace and move on. And here are some stats for you. Less than 10% of cheaters leave their spouse to marry the affair partner. And 40% of those cheated upon will forgive their beloved. The odds are even higher when there are children involved. Long-term outlook is impacted by other issues, such as the sad reality that 30% of cheaters will cheat again. 30%. And while a loving partner might forgive once, she or he is far less likely to forgive a second time. Now I ask that both of you, whoever's watching this, the cheater or the betrayed, consider the reality that 30% of cheaters will cheat again. I ask that because this is a commitment to move forward and try and save this relationship. So if you are the one who cheated, you need to be sure that you are not prone to do it again. And you need to be sure that your partner understands that. You need to be fully committed to making him or her understand that. So if you're the unfaithful partner watching this video, it falls to you to convince your partner that you're not going to do it again. The first step is trust. And it is possible to rebuild trust in a relationship after infidelity. I've been asked this many times. Is it possible? I was recently asked this in an interview for Elite Daily, which is recently up. I'll put a link to that below. And indeed it is. Many couples ask how long it takes to rebuild trust. And this depends on many things. Things such as how long the couple were together before the affair occurred. In a new relationship, the partner might be inclined to forgive, thinking it was a one-off event. Whereas in a long-term relationship, the partner might be more inclined to believe it must have been love, or why would he or she have done it after all these years? In this case, it may take as long as 3 or 4 years before trust is regained. So how do you do it? How do you rebuild trust after the crushing blow of infidelity? Well, sincerity is key. If the betrayed partner truly believes the cheater loves him or her and is sorry, there is a chance. Voluntary confession has the highest likelihood of success toward continuation of the partnership, and the lowest likelihood of continuation of the relationship is when the betrayed partner discovers the unfaithful partner engaging in infidelity, in the act, you might say. Learning of the affair from a third party is also crushing, and gaining a confession after a confrontation also has a very low likelihood of continuation of the partnership. And of course, if you hope to regain trust, having a plan really, really helps. The cheater should lay out his or her promise and commitment to the betrayed partner. Avoid focusing on what went wrong. I was seduced, for instance, or we'd grown apart, or you worked too many hours, or you'd gained weight, or the kids are always in the way, etc., etc., etc. None of that is going to help you get back into the good graces of your beloved. Instead, lay out your plan for reconnecting. Make short and long-term plans. A weekly schedule for dates and quiet talks, and a planned trip together somewhere. Plan a trip. Make it a project to plan a trip. Get a babysitter. Sex dates. Join a gym together. Couples massages. Movies once a week. A trip to Hawaii. And of course, the main thing is that you level up. That you actually level up. Allow a tracking app on your phone, for instance. There are several. Life 360 is very reliable. If you get it, get the paid version, not just the freebie. The freebie's good, but the paid version gives you weekly reports and tells you when somebody leaves somewhere and reappears somewhere else, how fast they were going, that sort of thing. And I'm not sponsored by anything here. There's no sponsorship involved. It's just a recommendation. It's something that I use with my kids, and I find it very, very helpful. Also, answer texts right away, and phone calls. Check in via visuals such as FaceTime so your partner can see where you are, who's with you, and exactly what you're doing. Transparency is a fair enough burden after you were in another partner's bed. If your partner wants therapy, do it. If you cheated, you probably need therapy. Own it, and you might just save your marriage. And therapy is the best place to deal with what went wrong. Chances are both of you have matters that can and should be addressed in a therapeutic relationship. Challenges with intimacy and emotional availability, mentioned earlier, stem from core beliefs learned in childhood and how each of you, attach to your parents. Regardless of whether you stay together for a year or a lifetime, chances are you will both benefit from the help of a qualified relationship therapist. So, that's what I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. I know this is a very tender topic, and typically people that are viewing these sorts of videos either have concerns that something is up, or they have recently been through a situation. So I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you have a beautiful week before I see you again next Sunday. And of course, I'll be here for our midweek sneak peek as to next week's topic. Until then, have an amazing week.